My mother-in-law announced at my baby shower that I was trapping her son. So I revealed the one thing he made me swear never to tell. Hi, everyone. I'm Nadia, 31F, and I've been married to my husband, Derek, 33M, for 4 years now. Last month, what was supposed to be the happiest day of my pregnancy turned into a public nightmare. All because my mother-in-law, Patricia, 58F, couldn't keep her mouth shut. Names are changed for privacy, but the pain is real, and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces. Derek and I have a solid relationship. Or at least, I thought we did until Patricia decided to weaponize my baby shower. Derek had planned most of it himself. He rented a beautiful garden venue with climbing roses and a little fountain, hired a live acoustic guitarist who played our song, and even arranged a custom cake with little fondant elephants because he knows I love elephants. I was so touched by every detail. I spent the morning getting my hair and makeup done by a lovely artist my best friend recommended, wearing a flowy lavender dress that made me feel like a glowing goddess despite being 7 months pregnant and constantly exhausted. The atmosphere was warm and golden. Friends were laughing. Cousins were taking photos, and I was floating from table to table, thanking people for coming, for the gifts, for their love. For a few hours, I almost forgot about the anxiety that had been gnawing at me ever since Patricia started making comments at family dinners. But Patricia had other plans. At one point, I was sitting near the dessert table with my two best friends, Jenna and Priya, who have known me since college and have seen every high and low of my relationship with Derek. We were laughing about something stupid. I think Priya was imitating her cat when Patricia glided over. She has this way of moving that's almost predatory, like she's circling prey. She had that fake smile plastered on her face, the kind that doesn't reach her eyes, the kind she perfected over decades pretending to be nice while sharpening her claws. She looked at my belly, at the round, beautiful bump that held my daughter, then at my plate with a small slice of lemon cake, and said loud enough for the next table to hear, "Well, I see you're not watching your figure anymore. That's fine. You're eating for two now, I suppose." I froze. The lemon cake suddenly tasted like ash in my mouth. Jenna squeezed my hand under the table so hard I felt her nails. Priya opened her mouth to say something sharp. She's never been afraid of confrontation. But I shook my head slightly. I wasn't going to let Patricia ruin my shower. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I just smiled, the kind of smile that hurts my cheeks, and said, "The cake is delicious. Patricia, would you like a piece?" She waved her hand dismissively, like I had offered her garbage, and walked off to find more receptive prey. But that was only the beginning. That was just the appetizer in a multi-course meal of cruelty. About 20 minutes later, while I was opening gifts, a mountain of onesies, receiving blankets, a handmade quilt from my grandmother, Priya pulled me aside near the gift table. Her face was pale, almost green. She whispered that she had overheard Patricia talking to Derek's aunts in the restroom hallway. Patricia was saying that I had accidentally gotten pregnant on purpose, that I had stopped taking birth control without telling Derek, that I was trapping him because I knew he was thinking of leaving me, that I was a gold digger who had targeted her son because he had a good job and a nice house. I felt my blood turn to ice water. Then it started boiling. Derek had never once mentioned leaving me. Not once. We had planned this pregnancy together, carefully, joyfully. We had talked about it for over a year before we even started trying. We had budgeted for it. We had picked out names. We had painted the nursery a soft sage green. The idea that Patricia was spreading this vile, disgusting lie at my own baby shower in front of my friends and family made me see red, made my vision actually blur at the edges. I walked straight to Derek, who was chatting with his college friends near the bar, laughing about something. He looked so handsome that day, in a light blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up. I kept my voice low and calm, but I could feel my hand shaking, could feel the tremor in my chest. I told him exactly what his mother was saying, word for word. I expected him to be furious, to march over there and shut it down publicly, to defend me, to defend our family. Instead, he sighed. He rubbed the back of his neck the way he does when he's uncomfortable, the way he does when he wants to disappear. She's just being dramatic, he said, his voice flat. Ignore her. I'll talk to her tomorrow. Ignore her. Tomorrow. I stared at him. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Derek, she's telling people I baby-trapped you. At our baby shower. Our baby, Derek. The one we planned together. The one you wanted just as much as I did. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He looked at his shoes, at the bar, at anything but me. Not now, Nadia. Please. There are too many people here. I don't want to make a scene. I felt something crack inside me. Something fundamental. Something I didn't know could break. But I nodded. I walked away. And I spent the next hour with a frozen smile superglued to my face, opening onesies and receiving blankets and rattles, while Patricia circled the room like a shark who had smelled blood in the water. She didn't stop. She never stops. That's the thing about Patricia. She has no off switch. Throughout the afternoon, she made little comments just loud enough for me to hear, always with that same fake smile, always looking right at me while pretending to talk to someone else, to one of Derek's co-workers. Some women just don't understand that marriage is about partnership, not manipulation. It's so sad when a son chooses poorly. To her own sister, my husband's aunt, I never thought my son would be the type to get trapped by a woman who wanted a paycheck and a green card. Even though Nadia is a citizen, mind you, so that doesn't even make sense. She even had the audacity, the sheer, breathtaking audacity, to say to my own mother, right in front of me, while my mother was holding a gift bag, I hope you taught your daughter that honesty matters in a marriage, because I'm starting to wonder if she knows what honesty even means. My mom, who is the most non-confrontational woman on earth, a woman who cries at commercials and apologizes when someone steps on her foot, looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Her hands trembled around her teacup. Her eyes darted to me, full of confusion and hurt and a dawning, terrible understanding. She didn't know what to say. She never does in these moments. And that was the moment something in me snapped. Not cracked, not bent, snapped clean in two. I stood up. I set down my glass of sparkling cider, so hard that some of it sloshed over the rim, and I walked directly over to where Patricia was holding court near the dessert table, surrounded by at least 15 people, including Derek's boss, my college roommate, my own godmother, and two of Patricia's bridge club friends who had come to gawk. Patricia, I said. My voice came out much calmer than I felt. It was the kind of calm that comes right before a hurricane makes landfall. Since you will not stop implying that I tricked your son into having this baby, since you have spent the last 3 hours insulting me, my character, and my marriage, I think it's time everyone heard the real reason Derek almost didn't marry me at all. The room went silent. The guitarist stopped playing mid-chord. Patricia's smile froze, then faltered, then vanished entirely. Derek, who had been across the lawn near the fountain, turned around so fast he nearly dropped his drink. I saw his face go white. I looked right at Patricia. I looked at her cold, hard eyes, and I told him everything. I told him that 3 years ago, when Derek and I first started talking about marriage, he sat me down in his apartment, the one he had before we moved in together, and made me promise never to tell his family something that had happened when he was a teenager, something that explained why he flinched at loud noises, why he couldn't stand being in dark basements, why he sometimes woke up screaming in the middle of the night. I told him that Derek grew up with Patricia parading a string of boyfriends through their house, most of them awful, some of them violent, all of them more important to her than her own children. I told him the names: Russ, Kevin, Tom, a man named Eddie who stole Derek's college savings. I told them that when Derek was 15 years old, a child, one of Patricia's boyfriends, a man named Russ with a temper and a drinking problem, used to lock Derek in the basement for hours because he talked back or looked at him wrong or breathed too loud. I told them that Patricia knew, that she heard Derek pounding on the basement door, that she told him to stop provoking Russ and to be grateful someone wanted to be with her. I told them that she chose that man, that abusive, cruel man, over her own son for 3 full years. I told them that Derek still has nightmares about the basement, that he flinches when doors slam, even now, even as a grown man, that he spent years in therapy learning how to trust anyone at all, learning that not every adult would hurt him, learning that he deserved to be safe, that the only reason he was able to propose to me was because he finally accepted, after years of work, years of pain, years of cry in his therapist's office, that none of it was his fault, that he was a child, that he deserved protection, that he didn't get it. Then I looked at Patricia. Her face had gone from pink to white to a splotchy, mottled red, like a rash spreading across her skin. Her mouth was open. Her hands were shaking around her wine glass. "So no, Patricia," I said, and my voice was shaking too now, but I didn't care. "I did not trap your son. Your son almost didn't marry anyone because you spent his childhood letting men bully him in his own home, in his own room, in his own head. And if you ever suggest that I am the problem in this marriage again, I will make sure every single person in your bridge club, your church group, and your book club knows exactly what kind of mother you really are. I will print it out on flyers and hand them out at your grocery store." You could have heard a pin drop onto a feather. The silence was so complete that I could hear the fountain trickling in the background, could hear someone's watch ticking. Patricia opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For the first time in her entire life, she had absolutely nothing to say. Her sister, the same one she had been whispering to earlier, the one who had nodded along, took a small, deliberate step away from her. Derek's boss, a woman in her 60s, was staring at Patricia with an expression of pure, undisguised disgust. My godmother, who has known me since I was born, was crying silently. The bridge club friends looked like they had just witnessed a murder. And Derek? Derek walked out. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. He didn't say a single word. He just set down his drink very carefully on the nearest table, turned around, and walked straight out of the garden, past the guitarist, who had frozen with his hand on the strings, past the cake with the little fondant elephants that now seemed like a cruel joke, past my mother, who reached out for him, past everyone he had ever known. I watched him go. I watched his back get smaller and smaller as he walked through the rose-covered archway and out of sight, and the anger that had been keeping me upright, the hot, righteous fury that had poured out my mouth like lava, evaporated instantly, replaced by a wave of nausea so strong and so sudden that I had to grab the back of a chair to keep from falling over. I had broken my promise. The one thing he'd asked me to keep secret, his trauma, his pain, his story, his childhood, his nightmares, his shame, I had just thrown out in front of 40 people because I couldn't control my temper, because Patricia had pushed me too far, because I wanted to hurt her more than I had wanted to protect him. I didn't even say goodbye to anyone. I didn't apologize to my guests. I didn't thank anyone for the gifts. I just followed him. I found him in the parking lot, sitting in the driver's seat of his truck with the door still open, his feet on the asphalt. He was staring at the ground, at a crack in the pavement, like it held the answers to every question he had ever asked. His hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard that his knuckles were white, bleached of all color. His jaw was clenched. When I approached, when I stood there in my lavender dress with my pregnant belly and my tear-streaked makeup, he didn't look up. He just said very quietly, in a voice I barely recognized, "You promised me." I started crying. Not pretty crying. Ugly crying. The kind where you can't breathe and your nose runs and your whole body shakes. I told him I was sorry. I told him I didn't plan it. I told him I had been pushed too far, that she had been attacking me all day, that I had just wanted her to stop. I told him I loved him. I told him I would do anything to take it back. But he just shook his head, slowly, sadly, like he was letting go of something he had been holding on to for a very long time. That wasn't yours to tell, he said. His voice cracked on the last word. That was mine, my pain, my past, my story. I told you those things in secret, in our bedroom, in the dark, when I trusted you with the worst parts of me, and you took it from me. You used it as a weapon. On me, you hurt me to hurt her. I had no answer for that, because he was right. He was completely, devastatingly right. And I hated myself more in that moment than I had ever hated anyone, including Patricia. He drove home separately. I watched his truck pull out of the parking lot and disappear around the corner. I stood there for a long time, alone in the fading afternoon light, until Jenna came and found me. She put her arm around me and drove me home. The baby shower ended early. People left awkwardly, shuffling, not knowing what to say, avoiding eye contact. Patricia disappeared before I could even look at her again. I heard later that her sister drove her home in silence. My mom hugged me so tight it hurt and whispered, "We'll figure this out, baby. I love you. Whatever happens, I love you." But I didn't see how we would figure anything out. For the next 4 days, Derek and I barely spoke. The silence in our house was heavier than anything I had ever experienced. He slept in the guest room. I could hear him moving around in there at night. Couldn't sleep myself. He went to work. He came home. He ate dinner in silence, chewing mechanically, not looking at me. He didn't ignore me cruelly. He didn't slam doors or give me the silent treatment as punishment. He just looked through me, like I was a window, like I was made of glass, like he was trying to figure out if he could ever trust me again, and the answer wasn't coming easily. On the 5th day, he sat down across from me at the kitchen table. He looked exhausted, hollow, dark circles under his eyes that hadn't been there before. His wedding ring was still on, which I took as a small mercy, a tiny sign that he hadn't given up completely. He didn't say anything for a long time. He just looked at me, and then he spoke. "I understand why you did it," he said finally, his voice tired and rough. "I know what she's like. I've known my whole life. I know she was pushing you. I know she was cruel. And I know I should have shut her down at the party. I should have defended you. I should have been a better husband in that moment." I started to apologize again. The words were already forming on my tongue. But he held up his hand. "But Nadia," he said, and his voice broke on my name, "you aired my deepest shame in front of my boss, my aunt, your grandmother, and 40 other people. You told people things that I have only ever told you and my therapist. You told them about the basement, about Russ, about the nightmares. You told them things I had spent years trying to bury, trying to heal from, trying to forget, and you did it to win an argument with my mother." He was right. He was absolutely, completely right. And I had no defense, no excuse, no justification that would make it okay. "I'm not leaving you," he said. "I don't want to leave you. I love you, and I love our daughter. But I need you to understand that this changed things. It changed how I see you. It changed how I feel about telling you things. It's going to take a very long time for me to feel safe with you again. Maybe forever. I don't know yet." I nodded. What else could I do? I had destroyed something precious and irreplaceable, and no apology could glue the pieces back together. Then, as if things weren't bad enough, Patricia started her campaign. Within a week, she had called, texted, or visited every single person who had been at that baby shower. She told them that I had fabricated the whole story. That Derek was a troubled child who had always been dramatic and attention-seeking. That he had made up the basement story to get sympathy. That I was a bitter, jealous, lying woman who couldn't stand that her mother-in-law was more loved and more respected than she was. She even told Derek's younger sister, Chloe, who is 26 and has always been closer to Derek than to their mother, that I had made up the entire thing to turn the family against Patricia. Chloe didn't believe her. Chloe called me that night and said, "I know what Mom is. I remember Russ. I remember the basement. I was there. I was just too young to do anything." Some people believed Patricia. Others didn't know what to think. A few, including Patricia's own sister, the one who had stepped away from her at the party, reached out to me privately and said they had always suspected something had been wrong in that house, that they had seen signs over the years. But that didn't make me feel better, not even a little, because I had still broken Derek's trust. I had still taken his pain and turned it into a public spectacle, and no amount of validation from other people could undo that. 2 weeks later, Derek and I had another conversation. This time he was calmer, more settled. He had been going to therapy twice a week, and it was helping. He told me he had decided to go back to therapy more seriously, not just occasional check-in, but real, committed work. He also told me that he wanted to confront Patricia, not about the lies she was spreading about me. He said he didn't care about that anymore, that her lies were just noise, but about the truth I had revealed. He said he was tired of carrying the secret, tired of protecting her reputation when she had never protected him, tired of pretending that his childhood had been normal when it had been anything but. So we went to her house together. I drove. Derek sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, not speaking. When we pulled into her driveway, a manicured suburban lawn with a bird bath and rose bushes, the picture of normalcy, he took a deep breath and nodded. It did not go well. Patricia answered the door in a silk robe, holding a glass of white wine at 11 in the morning. Her hair was done. Her makeup was done. She looked like she was expecting company, not her estranged son and his lying wife. When she saw Derek, her face softened for just a moment, a flicker of the mother she might have been. When she saw me, her face hardened into stone, into something ancient and unforgiving. "You're not welcome here," she said to me. Her voice was cold. Final. Derek stepped in front of me, physically stepped between us. "Then I'm not welcome either," he said. She stared at him like he had slapped her across the face. "After everything I did for you, after I raised you alone, after I sacrificed everything, my youth, my career, my body, for you and your sister, this is how you repay me? By bringing her to my door." "You didn't raise me alone," Derek said. His voice was quiet but steady, steadier than I had ever heard it. "You raised me with Russ, and Kevin, and Tom, and Eddie, and the others I've tried to forget. You raised me with men who called me a coward for crying, who locked me in the basement, who told me I'd never amount to anything, who drank too much and hit too hard and stayed too long. And you stood there and let them. You watched, you knew, and you did nothing." Patricia's mouth trembled. Her wine glass shook in her hand. "That's not, I didn't, you're exaggerating. You're always so sensitive. You didn't stop them," Derek said. "That's the same thing. That's worse, actually, because you were my mother. You were supposed to protect me, and you chose them, every time." She started crying. Big, theatrical, ugly sobs. The kind of crying that demands attention, that demands comfort, that demands forgiveness without actually asking for it. I did my best. I was a single mother. I was lonely. I was scared. You have no idea what I sacrificed, what I gave up, what I endured, so that you could have a roof over your head. You have no idea. "You sacrificed me," Derek said. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't even raising his voice. That was what made it so devastating. You sacrificed me to men who hurt me, and I am done pretending you didn't. I am done protecting you. I am done lying to myself. He turned and walked out. I followed. Patricia screamed something after us, something about ingratitude and betrayal, and how she hoped we would never know the pain of a child turning against you. But I didn't catch the words. I was too focused on Derek's back, on the way his shoulders were shaking, on the way he kept his head high even though I knew he was crying. We didn't talk on the drive home. The silence was different this time, not cold, not angry, but heavy with something like mourning. When we got inside, when we were standing in our living room with the sage-green nursery visible through the doorway, he pulled me into a hug. It was the first time he had touched me in weeks. Really touched me, not just brushing past me in the hallway. He held me for a long time, his face buried in my hair, his arms wrapped around me and our unborn daughter between us. "I'm not okay," he whispered into my hair, "but I'm going to be, I think, and I need you to be patient with me. I need you to earn my trust back, day by day. I need you to show me that you won't use my pain against me again." I told him I would be patient. I told him I would spend the rest of my life making up for what I did if I had to. I told him I loved him more than I had ever loved anyone. And I meant every word. That was 3 months ago. 3 months of hard work, hard conversations, and hard tears. We've been in couples counseling since then, twice a week. Derek goes to individual therapy twice a week as well. I go once a week. We're learning how to fight without destroying each other. We're learning that my need to defend myself doesn't override his need for safety. We're learning that love isn't enough. You also need trust and respect, and a willingness to sit with your own shame without making it someone else's problem. It's hard. Some days are better than others. Some days, Derek looks at me and I see the old warmth in his eyes. Other days, he looks at me and I see a flicker of the hurt I caused. And I know we're not there yet. But we're both trying. We're both showing up. And for now, that's all we can do. Patricia, meanwhile, has been put on an information diet. Derek still calls her once a week to make sure she's alive. She's his mother, after all, and despite everything, he doesn't want her to die alone. But he doesn't visit. She's not allowed at our house. She won't be at the birth. She won't meet our daughter until Derek decides he's ready. If ever. Chloe comes over every Sunday for dinner, and she tells us that Patricia is telling everyone she's a victim, that her son was brainwashed by his wife, that she's heartbroken and abandoned. But Chloe also told us that Patricia's sister stopped speaking to her, that some of the bridge club ladies have started asking questions, that the truth has a way of leaking out, no matter how hard you try to contain it. Our baby girl was born 6 weeks ago. We named her Hope, because that's what we're clinging to. Hope that we can heal. Hope that we can be better. Hope that our daughter will never know the kind of pain that Derek and I have known. She has Derek's eyes and my nose. And when she smiles in her sleep, the whole world feels a little less broken. So that's where we are. Broken in some places. Healing in others. Together, but fragile. Loving each other, but learning how to love better. And for now, that's enough.